My fiancé hired a hitman to kill me, but I calmly accepted. The job.I am an assassin who has retired for many years. To buy a wedding ring for my fiancé, I decided to return to the underworld for one last job. That very night, I received an order from a client whose name started with the letter J, but the moment I opened the profile, a cold sweat instantly soaked my back. The man in the photo was none other than myself. I stood frozen in front of the screen, unable to calm down for a long time. Isn't everyone saying you're a top assassin? Does it really take you this long to kill just one person? I pulled out a cigarette from my pocket and lit it. The nicotine I inhaled calmed me down a bit. After a while, I stared at the photo on the computer screen and gently tapped the keyboard. Ms. J, how do you want him to die? It doesn't matter how he dies, as long as the police can't trace it back to me. The client J seemed very anxious. I had just sent it over not long ago when I received her message. Oh, by the way, you must ensure the integrity of his organs. Before long, my account received a transfer from overseas. I stubbed out the cigarette in my hand, my eyes vacant. Although I couldn't verify the client's information, the assassination target she provided was all too familiar to me. The man in the photo, beaming with a happy smile, was none other than myself. May I ask what your relationship is with the man in the photo? To confirm the suspicion in my heart, I couldn't help but ask one more question. However, it seemed that the other party was very unprofessional, speaking the truth without any reservations. She is my fiancée. I clenched my anger and continued to ask, since you are about to get married, why would you want to kill him? Perhaps I was too blunt with my question this time, and client J felt somewhat resistant. Does this have anything to do with you killing him? I've been with Jessica for many years, and from what I know of her, she's usually terrified even to kill a chicken, so there's no way she would know the rules of our trade. So I just came up with a random excuse to brush it off. As a professional assassin, to help you clear your name, I need to fully understand the interpersonal relationships of the assassination target. Otherwise, when the police investigate, it will be hard not to suspect you. However, in the end, the client named Jay was still not convinced by me. Only this sentence was left in the chat box. You only need to do what you are supposed to do. The rest is none of your business. I didn't receive any more messages until her profile picture turned gray. But that was already enough. At least I already know that the woman who shares my bed every night is trying to hire a hitman to kill me on the dark web. Back then, in order to marry her, I resolutely decided to wash my hands of the underworld affairs, despite the organization's opposition. Moreover, after our joyful night together, she lay in my arms with a face full of hope. Husband, once we get married, wouldn't it be great if I gave you a pair of twins? By that time, I will focus on taking care of the children at home and then prepare a table full of dishes waiting for you to come home from work. Oh, by the way, honey, have you ever thought about what names we should give our children in the future? These touching words still seem to echo in my ears, making me wonder if there is some misunderstanding. But the cold numbers on the bank card felt like a bucket of cold water, instantly waking me up. A full $500,000. Jessica is just a small company intern. Where could she possibly have that much money? It was just before dawn when I quietly sneaked back to the rented room. After taking a deep breath, I gently opened the bedroom door and found Jessica still sound asleep in bed. As soon as I turned onto my side, she habitually wrapped her arms around me from behind, then rested her feet on me. Honey, why are you awake so early? I stared at her in a daze. Is this woman I deeply love really the J client I dealt with on the dark web just a few hours ago? In the 5 years we've been together, Jessica has never thrown a tantrum in front of me, and she even washes my personal clothes every day. She washes them spotlessly clean. Honey, you work so hard at your job, let me take care of these simple household chores. The neighbors all say I found a good wife. Yes, from the moment I met her until yesterday. I firmly believe that giving up my old life for her and becoming an ordinary person was the best decision I've ever made. It was precisely because I wanted to marry her that I decided to return to the underworld for one last job. I had already planned to tell her that I won a big lottery prize and would give her the money, but the events from a few hours ago keep replaying in my mind like a slideshow. Counting the days, there is less than a week left until Jessica becomes a full-time employee. This coincides exactly with the deadline set for me by Client J on the dark web. Is this a mere coincidence, or has Jessica been pretending all along? I feel like my head is about to explode. Honey, what are you thinking about? Why do you look so pale? Jessica rubbed her eyes and rested her head on my shoulder. Were you too tired from working during the day yesterday? Just thinking about the order I took last night, I instinctively shifted my body. I'm fine. Maybe I just didn't sleep well last night. Fortunately, Jessica didn't notice anything unusual. She just stretched lazily. Honey, I booked a premarital checkup for you today. I've already given your number to Dr. Luke, so don't forget to go. Let's go tomorrow. I happen to have an appointment to discuss something in the afternoon. Actually, I had nothing planned for the afternoon, but out of professional habit, I instinctively declined. No way. Jessica suddenly sat up with a start. I was so shocked by her sudden action that I stood frozen in place. Who? Husband? I wasn't scolding you just now. Jessica smiled awkwardly. I just want to marry you so much, that's why I was so anxious. You won't be mad at me, right? Since meeting Jessica until now, no matter what she asks me to do, she always discusses it with me in advance. Today was just a routine premarital checkup, so why was she acting so unusually? I pondered for a moment and decided to play along with the plan. All right, I got it. I'll get up and go right away. As soon as I finished speaking, Jessica immediately kissed me. Honey, when you get there, remember to find Dr. Luke. I've already arranged it. I casually replied a few words, got dressed, and went out. What a coincidence. Just as I arrived downstairs in the neighborhood, I received a call from Dr. Luke. He said he was already waiting for me at the hospital. Looking at the medical checkup items Jessica had prepared for me in advance, I fell into deep thought. It seems this matter is not as simple as I had imagined. I did not go to the hospital at the time Dr. Luke had arranged in advance, but instead appeared at a cafe downstairs from my home. Hey, the legendary figure in the industry, how did you end up as just a low-level company employee? A sexy woman wearing a baseball cap across from me stirred the coffee in her hand. Cut the nonsense. Where's the information I asked you to investigate? The woman pouted in dissatisfaction and took out a stack of documents from her bag, placing them on the table. Aren't you almost married? Why are you still so fierce? I didn't continue to waste words with her, picked up the materials, and turned to leave. You know the rules, no need for me to remind you again. The money has already been transferred to your account. After leaving the cafe, I casually hailed a taxi. Go to the hospital. The driver glanced at me through the rearview mirror and teased. Sir, that's a private hospital. I'm afraid my taxi can't get in there. Without a word, I took 200 yuan out of my bag and tossed it over. Can we go in now? The taxi driver's eyes gleamed when he saw the money. Yes, yes, yes. To be honest, the gatekeeper there is from my hometown. Others can't get in, but it's just a word from me. Drive. The taxi driver saw my indifferent expression and didn't continue talking to me. On the way to the hospital, I flipped through the information the woman from the cafe had given me. It wasn't until my fingers cracked from being clenched that I snapped out of my anger. Jessica, she had long been married. The date we got our marriage certificate happened to be the day she met me. And her husband was none other than the son of the chairman of his company, the dream man of every woman in town. Victor. It turned out that from beginning to end, it was all a lie. Sir, we've arrived. The taxi finally stopped at a place that looked like an estate. Looking at the luxury cars coming and going around me, if it weren't for the sign ahead, I would have even thought this was a palace. After I finished processing the documents, I called Dr. Luke. Dr. Luke, I'm really sorry. This place is just too big. I've been wandering around for a long time and still can't find the way. Could you please come out to meet me? Dr. Luke sounded very anxious. All right, stay where you are. I'll be there right away. After hanging up, I didn't stay put as Dr. Luke instructed over the phone. Instead, I wandered around. In a private hospital like this, the people who come are either wealthy or noble. Since Jessica was able to arrange for me to have this checkup, she probably isn't afraid that I would be suspicious. After all, in a few days, I will be nothing but a corpse. Now I am just curious about one thing. After deceiving me in every possible way for so many years, what exactly was she after? Although my professional instincts have roughly picked up some clues, I have no concrete evidence in hand. Hey, where did you country bumpkin come from, and what are you doing there? When I reached the entrance of a magnificent villa, a patrolling security guard stopped me. Excuse me, I came to see a doctor, but this place is so big that I accidentally got lost. The security guard looked me up and down, showing a disdainful look. Hurry up and leave. This is not a place for people like you to come by. The hospital is in Area B. I forced a smile and blinked. Hey, buddy, who do you think lives in this place? Such a luxurious house can't be cheap. As we spoke, I pulled a few hundred yuan from my pocket and slipped it into the security guard's pocket. Ahem. The security guard discreetly adjusted his pocket and pulled me aside. The owner here is called Henry, got it? Henry? Could it be our local richest man, Henry? Well, the security guard pointed at the cash in my hand and deliberately stretched the sound. I understood immediately and stuffed the remaining money into his hand. Not Henry, it's his son, Victor. I stared at him in shock. What? How could Henry's son be living in the hospital? The security guard lifted his head proudly, very pleased with himself. You've come to the right person for this. This Victor, Alex, what are you doing here? You made me look for you everywhere. Just as I was about to get an answer, Dr. Luke suddenly appeared behind me. I composed my expression and slowly turned around. Dr. Luke, sorry, I've never seen such a large estate in my life. I just wanted to take a look around and didn't expect to end up here. Before Dr. Luke could speak, I quickly changed the subject. By the way, it's getting late. Let's hurry up and do the examination. In order not to alert the enemy prematurely, I had to continue pretending for the time being. Fortunately, my performance along the way was quite good, and Dr. Luke did not suspect me. He just warned me not to run off recklessly next time. I patted my chest and promised I would never make the same mistake again. After taking a few turns, he led me to a place that looked like an operating room. Mr. Alex, please lift your arm, I'll take a blood test first. I followed his instructions, took off my jacket, and exposed my strong forearm. Just then, I suddenly let out a loud, satisfied burp. Dr. Luke was stunned on the spot. You. Who told you to eat something? Didn't Jessica tell you before coming that you can't eat before a blood test? I looked at him in confusion. No, I thought it was just a routine checkup. Who knew they would also draw blood? Dr. Luke immediately furrowed his brows. How could you still be drinking? How can you drink? Who allowed you to drink? I continued to pretend I knew nothing. Huh? Dr. Luke, why can't I drink alcohol just because I'm a grown man? Maybe Dr. Luke felt he had lost his composure earlier and was adjusting his mood. Well, Mr. Alex, aren't you and Jessica planning to have a child? Drinking alcohol is generally not good for your health. I suddenly slapped my forehead. Oh dear, Jessica really is something else, telling everything to outsiders. Dr. Luke, seeing this, didn't say much more, but his mood was somewhat downcast. Come back tomorrow, and remember not to eat or drink alcohol. I quickly sat up from the bed and straightened my clothes. All right, Dr. Luke, I'm really sorry. I'll come back tomorrow then. After speaking, I bowed to Dr. Luke, then quickly turned and left. He never imagined that during our conversation just now, I had already installed a listening device under his hospital bed. As soon as I left the hospital, I couldn't wait to put on the headphones. Sure enough, Dr. Luke called shortly after I left. Jessica? What's going on? Alex drank today, so we couldn't get a blood sample. Are you out of your mind? Can't you handle something this simple? Remember, there's 1 week left. I need to see him on the operating table by then. By the way, my son has been getting weaker and weaker lately. You'd better come over at night to take a look. I was standing by the roadside, listening to their long 20-minute phone call. Just as I was hesitating about how to go back, a limited edition Ferrari stopped right in front of me. The woman in the car rolled down the window, wearing a mischievous smile. Get in the car, you can't catch a taxi here. I glanced at the time, then casually got into the front passenger seat. When we were still a kilometer away from the rental, I asked Eva to stop the car at the bus stop. If you need any help, please don't hesitate to ask. I waved to her and turned to leave. Before I washed my hands of the business, I was a legend in the industry, naturally followed by many admirers. Eva, who gave me the information at the cafe this morning, was one of them. I hadn't even reached my doorstep when I received a call from Jessica. Honey, a friend has a birthday today, so I won't be coming back. Don't forget to go for your fasting medical checkup tomorrow. Could it be that Victor is having health problems and you want to visit your real husband? I continued to pretend to be completely unaware on the phone. Got it, wife. Drink less and stay safe. Just as I was lying in bed thinking about the next step, a private message came through the dark web backend. Sure enough, it was from client J. Act the day after tomorrow. Make sure everything is foolproof. Didn't we agree on giving me a week? Why the rush? The J client responded quickly. I'll add another 500,000 for you. I can't wait any longer. Why can't they wait? Could it be related to the call with Dr. Luke today? I immediately decided to probe her for information. Time is too tight. I can't guarantee 100% success. The client J continued to be relentless. What kind of damn top assassin are you? If you can't do it, I'll find someone else. Alex, you must be dead the day after tomorrow. It was not until I truly and clearly saw the last sentence that the last trace of affection I had for Jessica was completely extinguished. The veins on my arm bulged instantly. Yes, boss. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. After a day of investigation, I was almost certain about Jessica's plan. Her real husband Victor was seriously ill and needed an organ transplant to survive. And I happened to be a match for Victor. So from the very beginning, my meeting with Jessica was not a coincidence, but a carefully arranged plan. However, she did not expect that I was not an orphan with deceased parents. My true identity is a top assassin on the dark web for 5 consecutive years. What I didn't expect was that for my first job back in the game, the target of the assassination turned out to be myself. Until dawn, a well-thought-out plan gradually took shape in my mind. I immediately dialed Eva's number. I've sent you the information. Remember, don't leave any evidence behind. 20 minutes later, I arrived again at the private hospital where Dr. Luke worked. But this time, the security guard at the door didn't stop me. Instead, he even saluted me. I suppose Dr. Luke must have given them a heads up in advance. Dr. Luke, I'm really sorry about yesterday. I haven't eaten anything at all today. As soon as we met, I acted exceptionally enthusiastic. Dr. Luke didn't waste any words. He rolled up his sleeve and drew a tube of blood from me. Then I cooperated fully and underwent more than a dozen tests. I could clearly sense the excitement in Dr. Luke's expression. Alex, this organ of yours, oh no, your body is very healthy. After finishing the last checkup, Dr. Luke held my hands tightly, making me feel as if I had been reborn. I kept smiling without showing any sign. I already said I'm very healthy, but Jessica insisted that I have a premarital checkup. Dr. Luke cleared his throat softly and reminded once again, Alex, it's getting late. You should head back soon so your wife won't worry. I nodded, and before leaving, I even kindly closed the door for him. All the data looks fine. The surgery will be tomorrow night to avoid any unnecessary delays. When I eavesdropped on Dr. Luke's call again, Eva sent a message at the same time. Everything is arranged, waiting for the prey to take the bait. As I left the villa area, I glanced at the second floor of the villa where Victor was, then extinguished the cigarette in my hand. On the way home, I received a call from Jessica once again. As expected, she said on the phone without any surprise that she would stay at a friend's house tonight, telling me to sleep alone first. I casually gave a few perfunctory words and then hung up the call. After returning home, the first thing I did was log into my dark web account and proactively sent a message to Jessica. Tomorrow at 4 p.m., the Target's rental apartment. Collect the body. It wasn't until the message showed as read that I slowly closed my eyes. That night, I had a dream. I dreamed that I was kneeling on one knee, holding up a ring with my right hand, proposing to a girl. The crowd around erupted in cheers, shouting, "Marry him, marry him." The girl blushed and nodded slightly. The scene shifted, and I found myself back at the wedding venue. I was dressed in a handsome suit, standing at the center of the stage. Suddenly, a beam of light shone down on me from above, and Jessica, dressed in a pure white wedding gown, slowly walked towards me from the front. "Jessica, do you take this handsome gentleman by your side to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, to love and to cherish until death do you part?" The bride stood facing me, holding a microphone and shouting, "I do." "Mr. Alex, do you take this beautiful lady by your side to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, to love and to cherish until death do you part?" "Aye." "All the data is normal. Surgery can be performed at any time." The busy and noisy sounds around me instantly woke me from my dream. 1 second before I regained consciousness, medically speaking, I was still a corpse. This was just part of my plan. At 4 in the afternoon, Jessica indeed showed up at the rented room right on time. At that time, I had no heartbeat, no pulse, almost as if I were dead. After a simple examination, I was sent to Dr. Luke's operating table. Because I had calculated that they had to complete the kidney transplant surgery within half an hour of my heartbeat stopping, or all the previous efforts would be in vain. The fake death pill I had prepared in advance had completely lost its effect at this moment. But when I regained consciousness, I did not get up to resist. I was waiting for the perfect moment. Before long, I felt that there was someone beside me. That familiar scent of perfume on her, I immediately recognized it was Jessica. "Dad, I've already arranged things with Victor, and the person will be sent over soon." Dr. Luke patted Jessica on the shoulder. "Well done. It's no wonder Victor loves you so much. Once the surgery is done, I'll immediately arrange for you and my son to go abroad. I've already prepared the money. Leave the domestic matters to me to handle." "Dr. Luke, long time no see." Just as the two were about to start, I suddenly sat up from the operating table. "Should I call you Henry or Dr. Luke?" Actually, the moment I first saw Dr. Luke, I recognized who he was. No matter how well he disguised himself, that long-cultivated aura of privilege was impossible to conceal. At this moment, I was leisurely playing with the scalpel on the table, hardly like someone who was already dead. Jessica and Dr. Luke were so shocked their jaws almost dropped. "Alex, you were dead, weren't you? How is this possible?" I laughed instead of getting angry and patted Jessica on the shoulder. "Honey, do you really want me to die that badly?" Suddenly, I changed the subject. "However, someone is indeed going to die today, unfortunately." After saying that, I looked towards the villa where Victor was staying. "The one who dies will not be me." Dr. Luke was the first to react, trembling as he pointed at me. What do you mean by that? How dare you lay a hand on my son?" "Sizzle sizzle, Henry, you really know how to joke. I'm clearly standing right in front of you. How could I possibly have touched your son?" The next moment, there was a loud bang. The sound just reached the operating room. At that moment, the security guard outside suddenly shouted, "Henry, something's wrong. Victor, he." Dr. Luke heard the guard's words and staggered violently, almost losing his balance. "What happened to my son? Hurry up and tell me." "Victor, he jumped off the building to commit suicide." "What did you say? Say it to me again." Dr. Luke grabbed the security guard by the collar, his eyes full of fury. The security guard trembled all over, his voice trembling with tears as he spoke. I don't even know why. Victor jumped off from upstairs. Clap, clap, clap. At that moment, I excitedly started clapping on the side. It's really pitiful, isn't it? You all say he's the wealthy young master everyone envies, so how could he be so despairing as to jump off a building? It's you. It's you. Dr. Luke and Jessica both turned to look at me, their eyes seeming to want to kill me. I spread my hands, looking completely innocent. I already said, I was right in front of you all. How could I have killed him? You rich people need to provide evidence when you speak. Dr. Luke, burning with anger, and Jessica wouldn't listen to my nonsense. They immediately ordered me to be tied up. It was just a pity that it happened a second before the security guards swarmed in and stormed into the operating room. The sound of police sirens blared. When did you call the police? Jessica stared at me with wide eyes, looking utterly incredulous. I raised an eyebrow at her and gave a mysterious smile. Guess. Just as the police appeared in the operating room, I immediately put on a panicked expression. Officer, please save me. They kidnapped me and want to take my kidney. Before Dr. Luke could speak, the lead officer pulled out a warrant from his pocket. Mr. Henry, we have received reports from the public that you are involved in illegal organ transplantation. Please come with us to assist in the investigation. Dr. Luke was pinned tightly to the operating table, his eyes bloodshot. And this woman is also an accomplice. I raised my hand and pointed to Jessica beside me, showing a sorrowful expression. Officer, she not only deceived me emotionally, but also hired someone to kill me. I have evidence on my phone. I handed over the chat records I had prepared long ago to the police on the spot. Those images were altered by professionals, and no one could trace me as the killer. After hearing my story, the accompanying officer gave me a sympathetic glance as he handcuffed Jessica. Soon, Jessica and Dr. Luke were taken away by the police in handcuffs. Victor's body was also loaded onto the ambulance at the same time. The moment Dr. Luke and Jessica saw the body, the two utterly ruthless people broke down in tears. As the sole eyewitness, I was also asked to go to the police station to give a statement. Just a second before the door closed, I seemed to see a sexy woman wearing a newsboy cap making a heart gesture at me from the crowd. Eva's action scared me into quickly rolling up the car window. On the way to the police station, I heard the security guard, who had previously taken money from me, explain that the eldest young master of the Goof family had been in poor health since childhood. Over the years, the Goof family has taken many lives in order to prolong their son's life. But because their targets were all orphans without parents, and given Victor's father's status, many of the murder cases were left unresolved. It's quite a coincidence. If Jessica hadn't impulsively suggested having a child with me, I might not have found out the truth in advance. If it weren't for her, I might already be lying on the operating table, at the mercy of others. Looking back now, it seems all of this was the best arrangement fate could have made. Since I am the only surviving victim, the police, out of sympathy for me, only asked a few simple questions before suggesting to send me home. I sat in the back seat of the police car, staring at the streetlights flashing by outside the window, feeling somewhat absent-minded. Mr. Alex, right? The police officer sitting in the driver's seat called my name several times before I snapped back to reality. Huh? Officer, I'm here. Through the rearview mirror, I realized that the person giving me a ride home was Officer Liu, the one who arrested Jessica and the others today. Mr. Alex, have you been in Jing City all this time? Strange. What does he mean by suddenly asking me this question? There can be no issues with my background information. After all, I have left that life behind for many years, and apart from a few veterans in the industry, no one knows I used to be an assassin. Yes, I am an orphan, raised in the local welfare home. At this moment, I had to muster all my strength and spirit. Officer Liu did not continue to question me. Instead, while waiting at the traffic light, he took a cigarette from his pocket and handed it to me. I instinctively took it. Later, I realized something was wrong and went back. The real Alex doesn't smoke. My identity is fake. This. Officer Lou, sorry, I don't smoke. He gave an awkward laugh and put his cigarette back. Sorry, it's a professional habit. I pointed to the traffic light ahead. It's okay, the light is green. Let's go. The 20-minute journey felt like sitting on pins and needles, as if 20 years had passed. During this time, Officer Lou kept glancing at me through the rearview mirror from time to time. I felt a sudden chill. Fortunately, the car finally stopped downstairs at the rented apartment. Mr. Alex, if you recall any important clues later, remember to inform me. As he spoke, he opened the car door for me and handed me a card. I just transferred from Vin City, so I'm still not very familiar with many of the procedures. I hope you can cooperate with me. All right, officer. If I do remember anything, I will inform you immediately. I nervously took the business card from his hand and smiled in response. It's getting late, Officer Lou. Please remember to be careful on your way back. Wait. Just as I turned around to go upstairs, Officer Lou suddenly called me back. I stood there nervously, frozen in place, not daring to look back. Mr. Alex, your cigarette fell in the back row. Returning to the rented room, the first thing I did was call Eva. When you make your move, make sure it's foolproof. The background noise on the other end of the phone was very loud, like in a bar. I said, Brother Wang, don't you trust me to handle this? Hearing Eva's words, I was still a bit worried, so I began to ask her about the entire process of carrying it out. But unfortunately, her background music was too loud, making it impossible to hear clearly. I lost my temper on the spot. Someone's come home. Hurry up and get back here. 10 minutes later, the roar of the Ferrari echoed through the entire street. Are you trying to get yourself killed? How dare you be so flashy at a time like this? As soon as we met, I shouted at Eva loudly. However, she wasn't angry. Instead, she comforted me. You're a legend in our circle, and just a mere cop scared you like this? I was too lazy to argue with her and directly took out a bank card. This is the full commission for this mission. Take the money, go abroad to lay low for a while, then come back. Eva was about to refuse, but I shot her a glare that shut her up. If you don't want to spend the rest of your life in prison, listen to me. I can clearly feel that this time he's coming for me. Don't scare me like that. The business we're doing is all about ridding the world of evil. I ignored her and just pulled out a cigarette to light up. It's better to be a little more careful after all. All right, I'll listen to you. I'll leave tomorrow, okay? After saying that, Eva turned and got into the car. Just as she started the engine, I reached out to stop her again. If you're going to leave, leave tonight, so as to avoid unnecessary worries. Eva saw the seriousness in my eyes and stopped joking around. All right, I'll listen to you. I'm heading to the airport right now. It wasn't until 30 minutes later, when Eva sent me a photo of her boarding, that my anxious heart finally eased. A week later, as the sole witness to the organ trafficking and contract murder case, I attended the trial. In court, Jessica and Henry confessed to their crimes without denial. Since the case involved many victims, all of whom were orphans without parents, it attracted widespread social attention. Netizens were particularly concerned about the sentences given to the two of them. In the poll on job.Com, 99% of the public chose the death penalty. Only a very small number, 1 or 2 votes, chose life imprisonment. In their words, death was too lenient for them. They must spend the rest of their lives in prison to repent. In the end, under my intentional or unintentional guidance, the presiding judge announced the death sentences for both Jessica and Henry. The execution will take place in 1 week. This sensational case gradually faded from the public eye under the deliberate control of the higher authorities. On the day before Jessica's execution, I, as the sole victim, was granted a visitation opportunity. On the other side of the glass wall, Jessica's eyes were vacant, showing no emotional reaction, even upon seeing me. That's true. What emotions can a dying person possibly have? She walked forward slowly and picked up the phone in her hand. Alex, you're just lucky, that's all. Seeing Jessica's haggard face, I originally didn't want to tell her the truth. But who would have thought that when she was on the brink of death, she still didn't know how to repent? Then you can't blame me. I breathed on the glass and drew a J in front of him. Ms. J, long time no see. When Jessica heard me call out the name of the client from the dark web, her eyes instantly widened. You are that assassin. I just stared at her intently, a slight smile curling at the corner of my mouth. Miss Jessica, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm just an orphan. After speaking, I put down the communicator in my hand and left with ease. No matter how much Jessica cried and shouted after I left, she couldn't escape the fate of being shot. Just as I was leaving the prison to go home, I noticed a police car parked at the entrance. Sitting prominently in the driver's seat was Officer Liu. As soon as I appeared, Officer Liu honked the horn, inviting me to get in the car. Seeing the prison surrounded by guards, I had no choice but to grit my teeth and sit in the front passenger seat. What a coincidence, Mr. Alex. I didn't expect to run into you here. I gave an awkward smile. Yes, I came specifically to see Jessica. After all, we once loved each other. Officer Liu handed me a cigarette again, but this time I did not refuse. Mr. Alex, why do you think a wealthy young man would commit suicide for no reason? The hand I reached out with froze instantly in place. Maybe his health was poor and he didn't want to live anymore. The officer took a deep breath and exhaled a long smoke ring. Hey, do you think it's possible that someone deliberately didn't want him to live? As soon as those words fell, my whole body immediately tensed up. I slowly placed my right hand on the passenger door handle, ready to jump out at any moment. Unexpectedly, he suddenly changed his tone and threw his head back, laughing heartily. Ha ha. I was just joking with you earlier. Didn't scare you, did I, Mr. Alex? I quickly calmed my nervous feelings. Officer, do you think if Victor hadn't committed suicide, would he have been sentenced to death as well? The two of us just stared at each other. After a long moment, Officer Liu started the car. Mr. Alex, today I will take you.